The President. Questions. Question number 1, Ms. Yung Hoi-yan. Recently, the Consumer Council conducted a survey on the prices of goods sold by 3 major supermarket chains in 2022 and found that there was a price increase in nearly 70% of the goods, with the aggregate average price of a basket of 260 items from the relevant supermarkets rose by 2.1% over 2021, higher than the increase in the composite consumer price index, 1.9% over the same period. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether it has studied the causes of the price increase in supermarket goods and whether collusive pricing or monopolization has been involved in such causes? If it has studied and the outcome is in the affirmative of the government's measures in place to curb the situation, if it has not studied the reasons for that. 2, of the current number of vacant stalls in and the vacancy rate of various public markets and cooked food centers, whether it has plans to enable such stalls to be let out easier by offering a lower rental so that members of the public can purchase affordable good and daily necessities. If so, of the details, if not the reasons for that. And 3, of the measures in place to stabilize commodity prices, such as the measures in place to encourage more supermarket brands to join the Hong Kong market so as to drive down the price of goods through competition, and the measures in place to spur supermarket operators to bear social responsibility, thereby effectively controlling the prices of necessities and ensuring that the members of the public need not bear expensive goods. Secretary for Commerce and Economic Development. Mr. President, having consulted the Environment and Ecology Bureau, my consolidated reply to the question raised by Ms. Eunice Yung is as follows. Hong Kong is a highly open and one of the most competitive economies in the world. The government does not implement price control on various goods sold in the market. The government has all along been promoting fair competition. In this connection, the Competition Ordinance Cap 619 came into full effect in December 2015 with the aim of ensuring that Hong Kong continues to be a competitive, dynamic, and free market by curbing harmful and anti-competitive conduct, bringing the benefits of a level playing field to Hong Kong consumers, businesses, and the wider economy. Even though the Competition Ordinance does not regulate the pricing level of goods sold by individual undertakings in the market, the first conduct rule of the Competition Ordinance prohibits any behaviors that prevent, restrict, or distort competition in Hong Kong, including joint ventures, vertical price restrictions, and cartels, such as agreeing with competitors to fix prices and share markets. The second conduct rule of the Competition Ordinance prohibits undertakings with a substantial degree of market power from abusing that power to prevent, restrict, or distort competition in Hong Kong, including behaviors such as predatory pricing, margin squeeze, refusals to deal, etc., which have the object or effect of excluding competitors from the market, thereby limiting choices available to consumers. The two conduct rules both regulate behaviors of market participants. According to the Competition Ordinance, regardless of whether cases are originated from the complaints received, referrals by the government or public bodies, or initiated by the Competition Commission itself, when the Competition Commission has reasonable cause to suspect contravention of any conduct rule under the ordinance, it could commence investigation accordingly. The Commission has been proactively handling and prioritizing cases and complaints that affect people's livelihood, especially those involving the grassroots or the underprivileged groups. Apart from promoting fair competition to protect consumers' rights and interests, the Consumer Council has been monitoring closely the supply and price of various goods. The Council constantly conducts various surveys, including user experience surveys and price surveys on goods and services, so as to collect market information and publishes the results of price surveys for the public's reference. The results of the Council's annual Supermarket Price Survey 2022 released in April 2023 showed that the aggregate average price of a basket of items from the supermarket surveyed increased by 2.1% over 2021, reflecting that the cost of daily necessities had increased. The Council has called on supermarket groups to share and shoulder the social responsibility by striving to control the price of necessities. At the same time, consumers can make use of the online price watch of the Council to compare prices across different supermarkets and retailers. The Council will continue to monitor closely price changes of various daily necessities to facilitate the public in making smarter choices. The Commerce and Economic Development Bureau will continue to maintain close liaison and work closely with the Commission to promote fair competition and the Council to protect the consumers' rights and interests. On the usage of public markets and cooked food centers, as at the 31st of March this year, the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department manages around 13,600 stalls in public markets and cooked food centers, with a net vacancy of around 700 stalls and a net vacancy rate of around 5.1%. The number of vacant stalls and net stall vacancy rate for each public market and cooked food center are set out at the annex. The FEHD from time to time arranges open auctions to let out vacant stalls in public markets and cooked food centers. The upset auction prices are based on the reference rentals assessed by the Rating and Valuation Department, which takes into account factors including the open auction results of similar stalls in the same market and other FEHD markets, the location and facilities of the market, as well as the position of stalls in the market, etc. The actual market rental is determined by the outcome of auction. While rental level is one of the core components of operating costs, it is not the determinant of the retail prices of goods. Other factors such as the cost of goods, transportation, market positioning, demand and supply, etc. may also be at play. Public markets of FEHD are one of the major fresh food retail channels. Tenants usually decide and adjust the price of goods having regard to factors including market rules and operating costs. The government seeks to promote competition through which the price of goods sold in public markets would stay at a reasonable level. In new and overhauled public markets under the FEHD's market modernization program, the one tenant, one stall policy, that is, multiple tenancies are in general disallowed, is implemented with a view to fostering fair competition among market stalls and preventing monopoly. In building sizable new public markets at suitable locations, the FEHD also fosters positive competition between public markets and other fresh food retail outlets, which is conducive to maintaining the price of goods at a reasonable level. I so submit. Thank you. Ms. Eunice Yong. Mr. President, when it comes to daily necessities, foods, condiments, these are the necessary items most needed by the public on a daily basis. I ask what measures are put in place to make sure that the prices of daily necessities are kept at a reasonable level. Now, in relation to breakfast food, oil, and other food items, according to this magazine of the Consumer Council, the prices have increased by more than 1%, and this is a livelihood matter that affects the day-to-day living of our people. My question is whether the government has studied the reason for the price surge of the various goods sold in the market. The government has failed to give me a reply. The government has not answered me on whether there is any monopoly or collusive pricing involved. Of course, in the Secretary's reply, there is an explanation including the cost of goods, transportation, labor costs, demand and supply, affecting the price surge. But if there is no comprehensive review conducted by the government, it will be very difficult to help solve this livelihood issue, troubling the public on a daily basis. So why doesn't the government conduct a study on the price surge of daily necessities? Secretary, thank you, Mr. President. The Consumer Council collects information relating to about 2,600 items available and publishes the information on the Consumer Council's website so that before purchase, consumers can compare prices. Consumers can also make good use of the online price watch website of the Consumer Council, which contains the updated pricing information of 2,600 items of the sold by the 8 major supermarkets and retailers. The Consumer Council also monitors the price changes of these daily necessities and also update the price information to help buyers make informed choices. In order to facilitate effective survey and to protect consumers' rights and interests, the Competition Commission normally will not disclose information relating to the complainants. Only when the situation or the circumstances permit would the information be disclosed without affecting the investigation outcome. The Competition Commission will usually announce preliminary information relating to the sectors involved. For information services, construction, infrastructure services, the Competition Commission received the most number of complaints, 10, 10, and 8 respectively. As for food items, only 3 complaints had been received. Mr. Gary Chan. Mr. President, apart from continuous price hikes of items sold at supermarkets, there is also a problem with how items are sold at the supermarkets. Well, I bought 3 tubes of toothpaste from a supermarket in a bundled sale, and then I went home and did a check and found that actually the price per item was more expensive than the separate items. Now, I believe I'm not alone in this. Many members have the similar experience. Now, they would make use of a sale in order to jack up prices. Now, Secretary, are there ways to regulate the behavior of these supermarkets so as not to allow them to pull wool over the eyes of consumers? Secretary. As I said in my reply, the government does not implement price control on various goods sold in the market. When we receive complaints or referral by the relevant departments, the Competition Commission will conduct an investigation. And then a report will be released stating the findings of the investigation. There will be a discussion with, say, the supermarket concerned so as to drive at a proposal that will benefit all parties, including consumers. A report will also be published on a regular basis for the benefit of the public so as to help buyers make informed choices. Mr. Stanley Lee, sorry, your question hasn't been answered. I think he misunderstood my question. I asked the government to regulate the behavior of supermarkets. I didn't ask the government to impose price control. Mr. Stanley Lee, according to the public sentiment and my observation, basically the supermarket chain, we have only 2 supermarket chains dominating the market. The price levels are tallied. Now, I actually did a check yesterday. At least 10 items sold by these 2 major supermarket chains are pitched at the same price levels, not a cent of difference, whereas for other retailers, these items are pitched at different price levels. So there is a reasonable suspicion that collusive pricing may be involved. Now, will the government conduct a detailed investigation on suspicious collusive pricing and monitor the situation closely? Secretary, thank you for the question. As I mentioned, the Competition Commission has been handling and prioritizing cases and complaints that affect people's livelihood, especially those involving the grassroots and underprivileged. the Competition Commission is aware of the situation. It closely monitors the situation. For the first conduct rule of the Competition Ordinance, CAP 619, it prohibits any behaviors that prevent, restrict, or distort competition in Hong Kong, including joint ventures, vertical price restrictions, and cartels, such as agreeing with competitors to fix prices and share markets. The second conduct rule prohibits undertakings with a substantial degree of market power from abusing that power to prevent, restrict, or distort competition in Hong Kong, including predatory pricing, margin squeeze, refusals to deal, etc., which have the object or effect of excluding competitors from the market, thereby limiting consumers' choices. Where the Competition Commission has reasonable suspicion that a contravention of the ordinance has taken place, the Commission will commence investigation. What is worth noticing is that similar price levels in supermarkets may not constitute a breach of the competition ordinance. In the past few years, different supermarkets, online sales channels, and discount stores have emerged in the local market, providing a variety of choices for consumers on the daily necessities and other items. They are pitched at different price levels, so we do have competition in the market. As to whether any case is in breach of the conduct rules of the competition ordinance, the Competition Commission will need to collect evidence and investigate into these cases. Mr. Lee Chen-kang, I don't think any member of the public would like to see a price surge, especially for daily necessities sold at supermarkets. They are popular retail outlets. It is the Competition Commission's responsibility to make sure that quality goods and services can be provided to consumers at a reasonable level so as to drive positive competition. In order to protect the public from buying excessively expensive items of daily necessities and to prevent monopolization and collusive pricing, will the government instruct the Competition Commission to intervene, and will you also engage the Legislative Council in the investigation of these matters? Thank you for the question. The Competition Commission is gravely concerned about any act that may prevent, restrict, or distort competition in Hong Kong, especially in relation to complaints and cases involving the grassroots and the underprivileged groups. The Competition Commission has commenced a consultation on the 1st of June on the food delivery platforms and the undertakings. The Competition Commission is still conducting the consultation. It is closely monitoring the situation. Apart from delivering reports in the Legislative Council, the Competition Commission on a daily basis monitors the situation to prevent such behavior. The CDB also works closely with the Competition Commission. For example, the Bureau attends an electrical meeting on a regular basis to brief members on the work of the Competition Commission. Mr. Benson Look. Thank you, Mr. President. As per the administration's main reply, I agree that Hong Kong is a highly open and one of the most competitive economies in the world. If we want to tell a good Hong Kong story, this is, of course, one of the top 3 highlights we should tell others. And the government is the gatekeeper of this highly open and competitive economy. People's livelihood is of utmost importance. In the Secretary's main reply, it is said that the Commission will handle cases and complaints that affect people's livelihood, especially involving the grassroots and the underprivileged groups, in a prioritized manner. And members already talked about the price of daily necessities, the behavior of food delivery platforms, as well as items sold at public markets. These are matters that affect people's livelihood. But from the perspective of an average Joe in the street, they may not know about the work of the Competition Commission. Well, of course, the Secretary just now said that investigation would be initiated by the Competition Commission, and then there'll be a discussion with the business undertakings. But apart from that, can you tell us what has been done by the Competition Commission? Secretary, I think the Competition Commission regularly publishes information relating to their monitoring work. As I mentioned, 2 food delivery platforms were found to be in breach of the conduct rules in the Competition Commission ordinance. The 2 platforms have agreed to amend their practices, which, in the view of the Competition Commission, can allay the concerns. The consultation commenced on the 1st of June, but the Competition Commission's work is welcomed by the public and different sectors of the economy in safeguarding a level playing field. There is also another case involving the Fisheries Market Organization, and there was a joint operation with the police leading to a search of the premises of a number of stalls in the FMO premises. And we understand that the Competition Commission is still investigating into the relevant case. This is an example of how the Commission has proactively handled cases relating to the underprivileged groups.
Question to Honorable LAU Kwok-fan. Thank you, Mr. President. The Northern Metropolis comprises a number of new development areas, NDAs. It is learned that among the NDAs, the development of Tung North NTN, KTN, and Fanling North NDAs is being taken forward at full steam. They are expected to be the earliest completed NDAs in the Northern Metropolis and also one of the sources of government's housing supply in the medium to long term, with the first resident intake already taken place. In this connection, will Government inform this Council first, given that in respect of in-situ land exchange applications for land in the aforesaid NDAs under the enhanced conventional new town approach, the deadline for acceptance of binding basic terms offer for land exchange is end of this month. But it is learned that at present some applications are still being processed, whether authorities will consider extending the relevant deadline, if so, of the planned extension, if not, reasons for that. Second, given that, as announced by the authorities earlier on, applicants of the aforesaid land exchange applications may opt for premium assessment on the basis of the standard rates, but their views that there has been an apparent downward adjustment in land premium of private residential sites since announcement of the standard rates, whether the authority will consider revising the previously announced standard rates and establishing an adjustment mechanism. And finally, given that the CE proposed in the 2022 policy address that government offices in central business districts with no specific location requirements will be relocated to the Northern Metropolis, and the government has also reserved a site in KTN NDA for the construction of government complex, of the authorities' anticipated time of completion and commission of complex, and whether they will consider increasing the provision of commercial sites in the vicinity of complexes to drive the development of the NDA as a whole. Secretary for Development, Mr. President. Tung North and North NDAs are among the first NDAs that entered the work stage in the Northern Metropolis. Work started in 2019. The first batch of private housing units received their residents end of last year. 2 other private housing sites were sold by tendering in 2021. In 2026, there will be massive population intake for public housing. Now, my answers to Mr. Lau's question is as follows. Tung North and North NDAs adopt the enhanced conventional new town approach. In other words, in principle, the government will take back all the private land planned for development, and then there will be site formation and infrastructural facilities will be built, and then the land will be set aside for various uses, including disposing the land for private development. But then for land planned for private development, the government allows the current landowners to apply for in situ land exchange, provided that certain criteria and conditions are met. And then before the appointed deadline, the land exchange conditions, including the land premium, be adopted. With the participation for landowners, we can avoid having the need to resume land and tendering afresh, and this will speed up the development procedure. For the first stage development, in situ land exchange applications were completed in 2017. 2 cases were approved. For the remaining stage of development, the Lands Department made announcements about the arrangements in February last year. As of end of May, 7 cases were given the go-ahead to be further processed, involving 9,000 private housing units. 30th of June was supposed to be the deadline for land exchange set by the government. But then experience tells us that having examined the case without jeopardizing the development program, the government will extend the deadline till the 31st of December this year to allow more time for discussion. Second, in March last year, announcement was made about the standard rates for the development area. If an applicant chooses to adopt the standard rates for the land premium assessment, then both the government and the applicant do not need to spend time to assess the land premium and carry out negotiation individually for each site under the conventional model. But then the application must be made within the approval period or the vetting period. There is a time element. So generally speaking, standard rates do not have to be adjusted within the approval period. But then since March last year, when the standard rates were announced, both the economy and the property market had undergone major changes. The general view of the industry is that the standard rates set for that NDA have already gone out of step with the market rates, so it has not become a real option. In fact, among the 7 applications mentioned above, the applicants in 5 out of the 7 cases opted for the conventional assessment model that is not using the standard rates, and the Lands Department therefore has to go through the established procedure to assess the premium. For the other 2 cases, they have not yet made a choice. Having considered the objective criteria and data in the market, we believe that there's a reason, a justification to adjust downwards the standard rates so as to reflect the market adjustments, so that the standard rates would become a meaningful option, and this will achieve the original policy intention of speeding up the assessment process and therefore the pace of development. The Lands Department will issue practice notes in relation to the extension of the deadline as well as the adjustment of the standard rates. The applicants will be informed and they will be allowed to reconsider their choice. We hope that by making such reasonable arrangements, there will be timely applications and there will be timely completion of the scrutiny of the applications, and then work can start soon. Thirdly, the government will relocate government offices currently located in the CBDs but without any location-specific requirements to the Northern metropolis, so as to drive the development there. In Tung North NDA, a site has been reserved for a complex, and currently there are still homes for the aged in operation. When the eligible elderly residents have been rehoused to a nearby welfare complex, we will then start the formation of the site in 2024, and in 2026 we'll start the works for the superstructure of that government offices so as to compress the timetable. For that government complex, the surrounding sites are mainly planned for high-density residential development and mixed commercial residential development plus a public transport interchange. Ancillary commercial uses like F&B, retail services will be allowed. It is believed that there will be about 300,000 meters square of commercial floor area. In light of the proposal in the Northern Metropolis Development Strategy that the innovation and technology users should focus or should concentrate in the Sentin Technopole, the government is now examining a few sites in Kutong North NDA, originally planned for INT, and such land will be formed in 2024. We note Mr. Lau's view and will consider rezoning, whether they're suitable for rezoning for commercial uses. Thank you. Mr. Lau, for Kutong North and Fanling North, they are the first NDAs to adopt the enhanced conventional NT approach. Hong Shui-kiu, Ha-chun, and the Sentin Technopole will also be included under the pilot scheme. I believe that the standard rates will be applicable to Hong Shui-kiu and Sentin. I want to know when the government will make an announcement. For Kutong North and Fanling North, for the enhanced proposal, it is only applicable to the land exchange for private residential users. But what about commercial users and industrial users? Will institute land exchange be applicable as well? I would like to see the details being announced soon. There were 7 applications in Kutong North and North NDAs, but no applicant has really adopted the standard rates. I just doubt whether it is because for the conventional model, it has been such an approach that it would take more time. So they're still being processed. Now, it is said that the standard rates will be adjusted downwards, but there's no timetable. Now, you're extending the deadline by 6 months. Secretary, do you think that you have got sufficient time for the 7 applicants to complete their land exchange procedures? And when are you going to make an announcement about the revised standard rates? Secretary, for Mr. Lau's second question, we hope that within this month, in relation to Kutong North and Fanling North NDAs, issue a practice note to the industry in relation to the downward adjustments. There will still be 6 months' time available. We really believe that the standard rates will facilitate the completion of the negotiation within the year. Well, as long as the landowner opts for the standard rates, it takes only 1 month's time to complete the modification and the land exchange procedures. As to whether the enhanced conventional NT approach will be adopted in other NDAs. For Hong Shui-kiu NDA, the government has already said that this will be applicable, and in fact, it will be extended to commercial users. For Yunnan South, as was the Sentin Technopole, we believe that this model will still apply. But then, whether we're talking about all private sites and private sites for all users, we will consider it, and there will be an announcement in due course. Ms. Chen Yutming, thank you, Mr. President. For the Northern Metropolis, there are a number of NDAs, 6 in Yunnan and 4 in another area. I think we need to have a good integration between the city and the rural areas. The government has lately announced the Sentin Technopole, where tens of thousands of square feet of Chotong sites will be involved. Now, for the Northern Metropolis, I want to know whether there's a mechanism to allow existing landowners to join hands with the government to develop the sites. In February this year, I asked the Financial Secretary. There have been successful cases in overseas countries as well as locally. We have been told that they will soon start a study in relation to my idea. So what about the study on the co-development of the rural as well as the urban areas? Can you divulge some details? Well, I think when it comes to this idea of having both, there are a number of points. First of all, how we can make use of the existing towns, with the heritage, with the rich culture to facilitate the new town development. And then, of course, we want to make sure that the current landowners, in particular landowners of rural land, how they would be facilitated in taking part in the new town development so that they can contribute, not just in the form of allowing land to be resumed by the government. Well, I think for the Sentin Technopole, we have made an announcement about the zoning and land uses there. For landowners, in particular landowners of Chow and Tung sites, as to how they can take part in the development, there are two levels, personally speaking. First of all, for Chow Tung sites, their management structure may have to be sort of deregulated in some ways. Currently, it takes the approval agreement of all the members before a Chow site or a Tung site can be disposed of. Can there be some changes? Well, in fact, the Development Bureau as well as the Home and Youth Affairs Bureau are having a word with the Hon YUNG Kwok. It is about the governance structure of Chows and Tungs, and we have to give priority to the views of the rural people. And after deregulating the governance structure of the Chow Tung sites, and if the landowners are very interested in taking part in our development, then as Mr. Lau's question has indicated, can we not allow them to take part in the development? Would it just be for private residential uses or commercial uses, or can we allow industrial uses and innovation technology uses as well, without jeopardizing the government being allowed to take the lead, because the government would like to introduce the pioneers and on various occasions in different forums we are consulting the views. Mr. Im Kong. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. President. If more and more government offices are relocated to the northern metropolis, then there will be more ancillary commercial uses. To have the best layout, I want to know how the government is going to plan for the logistics facilities in the NDAs. Have you already set aside sufficient land for logistics uses? Secretary. Well, when it comes to logistics uses, currently, as we want to have them sort of concentrated in certain areas, we're mainly talking about Hong Kong and Yuen Long South. Altogether, 70 hectares of land have been reserved for logistics use or multi-story industrial buildings. And for the Sentin Technopole, a small amount of land, around about 11 hectares of land, will be earmarked for logistics development. We believe that for the northern metropolis, we can look at Takuling Pingche, which has a huge area, and where you have 3 cross-boundary points, 3 boundary crossing points, which the logistics industry will find useful. So next year, when we make announcements in relation to Takuling, there will be more details. Mr. Tung Chair. Thank you, Mr. President. In relation to the standard rates, in relation to the land premium assessment, in fact, it has been advocated by myself and my constituency. In this way, we can ease the workload of the lands department, and we can expedite the pace of development. Currently, the outcome may not be that satisfactory. The Secretary has promised to carry out the review, and announcements will probably be made next month. I really hope that in the light of market changes, there will be timely and systematic re-examination of the amount of the standard rates. Well, Mr. President, if I may refer you to the main reply of the Secretary, it is said that some of the government offices will be relocated to the northern metropolis. My question is, in relation to the relocation exercise, would you try to make it more user-friendly in the delivery of services? You can't just try to drive the development locally, but sacrificing the convenience in terms of the service provided to the public, bearing in mind that currently the access isn't that really good. Mr. President, in the course of relocating government offices to the northern metropolis, we'll certainly bear in mind location-specific requirements of our public service. Say, for example, if a department mainly serves the legal sector, then I believe that, say, for example, I believe that it will be more appropriate to have the offices located in the central district as well as the Admiralty area. If we are talking about serving the general public, the grassroots, then, and since the northern metropolis will get a huge population, so I don't think the relocation will impact or jeopardize the service quality. I think it's important to have ancillary facilities and services. For the northern metropolis, I have said that we've reserved a site for a government complex, and for Hong Shui Kiu again, a similar arrangement has been made. Whenever we make a choice about the location, we will have it located near to the railway corridor, not just to facilitate colleagues going to work, but also to facilitate the citizens going to visiting government offices to be served. This will be considered by us. Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Mr. President. In relation to the NDAs, when it comes to the land exchange arrangements, in the Secretary's written reply, there are two major objectives that would justify the government's taking over the land. Owing to one reason or other, the pace has not been as quick as expected. I want to know if the government would consider invoking the land resumption ordinance if, after a long time has been made available and still the land has not been sort of processed. Well, for the enhanced model, we must have a negotiation, and there will certainly be a deadline. There is a timetable we have to adhere to. For Kutong North and Fanling North, the original deadline was end of this month. When it comes to the decision on the deadline, I think the most important point is not jeopardizing the timetable to take back the land and to develop the site. Now, we have always set next year as the time to start such processes. So there's room for us to extend the deadline. This is exactly because we have been considering the time that we would like to take back the land. We believe that there's room to maneuver, but then our land process will not be affected.
Question number 3, Mr. CHOW Man-kong. Regarding the promotion of national and national security education in higher education institutions, especially the 8 universities funded by the University Grants Committee, will the government inform this council one of the number of academic staff members and students of various institutions who have been arrested are awaiting trial or are convicted after trial for contravening the Hong Kong national security law since its implementation? Will break down by institution whether the academic staff members involved in the cases still engage in the teaching and research work of their respective institutions at present. 2, as it is learned that various institutions have since the last academic year incorporated national and national security education in the student scope of learning, but since the authorities respect the autonomy of various institutions in curriculum design, the curriculum design standards vary among different institutions, and an institution has even publicly stated that the implementation of Western core value education in institutions is better than the teaching of Hong Kong national security law, whether the authorities have drawn up codes of guidelines to assist these institutions in designing the relevant curriculum and incorporated the relevant requirements into the statutes of institutions such as the handbook for academic staff members and the code for students. If so, of the details, if not, whether the authority will draw up clear codes of guidelines in the new academic year for institution to follow, and whether it would use the assessment outcome of the performance of UGC-funded university implementing national security education as one of the indicators for allocating funds of the university. If so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. President, according to the law of the People's Republic of China on safeguarding national security in the Hong Kong SAR, and then any institution, organization, or individual in Hong Kong shall abide by it and shall not engage in any act or activity which endangers national security, while post-secondary education institutions enjoy institutional autonomy and academic freedom under the Basic Law. They must also hold themselves accountable to the public, ensure good governance and proper use of public funds, and nurture talent with virtue and ability. Post-secondary education institutions are not above the law, and all staff members and students must abide by the law. The government has communicated with the post-secondary education institutions through regular channels to remind them of their statutory obligations under the NSL in order to strengthen the prevention and suppression of activities on campus that may violate NSL or other laws. The fundamental mission of education is nurture morality and foster talent. Post-secondary education institutions are duty bound to nurture our young generations into citizens with a sense of social responsibility and national identity, and affection for Hong Kong, as well as an international perspective. The NSL aims at preventing suppression and imposing punishment for acts and activities that endanger national security. It is the duty of the education sector to strengthen prevention through education. Among others, post-secondary education institutions shall offer their students national security education or activities in accordance with Article 10 of the NSL, with a view to raising staff members and students' awareness of national security law abidingness. I'll reply to Dr. CHOW Man-kong's question as follows. One, student and staff affairs are within the autonomy of post-secondary education institutions. They have put in place mechanisms to ensure that student and staff members do not engage in conduct that is unlawful or damages their reputation. The government does not maintain information on the number of student and staff members arrested or charged for violating the NSL. Nevertheless, according to information provided by the Security Bureau, as at the 2nd of June 2023, a total of 252 persons were arrested for suspected acts and activities that endanger national security since the implementation of the NSL. Among them, 155 persons and 5 companies were charged and 79 persons convicted or awaiting sentencing. Currently, all post-secondary education institutions have put in place student and staff disciplinary policies and mechanisms which are reviewed and updated in accordance with latest development in society, including the implementation of NSL. Student and staff members shall abide by their respective conduct codes set by their institutions and shall not engage in conduct that is unlawful or damages the institution's reputation. In the event of arrest, charge, and conviction of suspected involvement in illegal activities and criminal acts, including offences under the NSL, the institution would generally refer the matter to the relevant staff or student disciplinary committees for handling in accordance with the established procedures. The committee will decide whether the disciplinary action is to be taken, having regard to the nature and severity of the case. Depending on the severity of the case, students may be suspended from their studies or expelled, and the employment of staff members may be terminated. The institutions also require job applicants to declare the commission records. 2 and 3. With the implementation of the NSL on the 30th of June 2020, post-secondary education institutions have taken a series of measures since the 2021 to 22 academic year to incorporate national security education into students' learning in fulfillment of the statutory duties under Article 10 of the NSL through organizing seminars, sharing sessions, workshops, forums, and study tours, etc. In further pursuance of the above-mentioned objective, the government has included whole-person development as one of the 4 strategic directions adopted in the 2022-25 triennium of the UGC, illustrating that instituting a strong sense of civic duty into students through various education at university level will help nurture graduates to become the future pillars of society, and that education on the Constitution, the Basic Law, and the NSL should form an important part of the university curriculum with a view to nurturing students into law-abiding and responsible citizens. The said strategic direction was adopted as part of the assessment criteria in the planning exercise for 2022 to 2025 triennium. The UGC reviewed the university's proposal in accordance with the assessment criteria and submitted its funding allocation recommendation to the government, which was eventually accepted and implemented. In addition, the UGC signed University Accountability Agreement UAAs with the UGC-funded university with a view to enhancing the accountability and performance transparency. The UAAs set out the overall development strategy of the UGC and the UGC-funded universities, as well as the basic principle on the use of UGC's funding. In renewing the UAAs for applicability to 2022 to 25 triennial, the UGC added a new provision to emphasize the aforesaid strategic direction of whole person development. In this regard, the UGC-funded university responded positively in the planning exercise proposals for the 2022 to 25 triennial, setting out in detail the overall strategies and plans formulated on values education, and have been implementing the plans outlined in the PEP since the 2022-23 academic year, including introduction of relevant courses that carry credits or form part of the graduation requirements. Post-secondary education institutions enjoy autonomy on curriculum design. In general, they provide diversified learning opportunities both within and outside the curriculum to enhance students' awareness of our country's history, culture, constitutional order, and the latest development in various fields, thereby helping them gain a deeper understanding of our country, develop a strong sense of national identity, and achieve an enhanced sense of national security, law-abidingness, and civic duty. The institutions determine the course duration having regard to the teaching mode, content, or requirements, and provide appropriate courses for students. Fit-for-purpose assessments such as examination and project studies are also conducted to assess students' understanding of important issues related to the NSL. The Education Bureau requires post-secondary education institutions to regularly review and report on the arrangement for courses and activities conducted to national and national security education. Information provided by them show that they have taken into account the actual circumstances such as the respective positioning, qualification of teaching staff, program, and course structures in providing the series of courses and other learning activities on national and national security education. In addition to various topics under national security, the scope of coverage also includes Chinese culture, history, and philosophy, the close ties between the country, and the training of student leadership qualities, etc. Relevant courses and learning activities that they deliver by faculty members or external experts are also arranged to help students gain sufficient knowledge and a comprehensive understanding of the country's developments. As reported by the institutions, the feedback from the teaching staff and students was positive. The institutions will continue to evaluate the effectiveness of their courses and learning activities and make appropriate adjustments as needed to ensure that they can effectively achieve the learning objective of raising the awareness of the student and staff members on national security and develop an enhanced sense of law-abidingness, national identity, proper values, and civic duty. The UGC Secretariat will continue to maintain close liaison with and provide feedback to the UGC-funded university and support them implementing strategic direction of whole person development in the 2025 triennium. The education will continue to liaison with them and provide support. This is one of the four development directions. And then the national security education should form part of the courses for students. But according to the Education Bureau, the institutions enjoy the autonomy. But in order to highlight the importance of national education, national and national security education, to do more in the 2026-2029 triennium, and ask the institutions to come up with a dedicated teaching faculties so that we can prevent a situation whereby some institutions would offer courses in Chinese poems and literature as part of the course on national and national security education. President, different institutions have a different development directions and missions. If we impose an across-the-board requirement, then that would prevent the institutions from imparting knowledge from multiple and divergent perspectives. But the member might be concerned how the institutions will do a good job in promoting national security education. As I mentioned the four strategic directions, and for national security education, there should be a specific policy direction, and we also allocated dedicated funds for institutions, and when the instruction will cover the Constitution, basic law, and national security education. We require institutions to furnish information regularly. If irregularities or non-compliance is detected, we would follow up the case with the UGC. And through the university accountability agreements, the universities would also conduct quantitative assessment to see if they have implemented national security education and relevant courses in accordance with the funding agreement. If they have failed to do so, the UGC can take appropriate action as appropriate. Dr. Priscilla Leung, under Article 6 of the Basic Law, safeguarding the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of China is the collective obligation of all people, including Hong Kong compatriots. So it's not really something about avoiding arrest or committing an offense. That would be the very last part of the full picture. I've heard one speech which is really very outstanding. It covers the historical perspective and also explain what national security is about through the horizontal and vertical just positioning different issues. Well, I work in a university. UGC-funded university in particular are just trying to cope. They do this in a very piecemeal manner. Sometimes they will involve an audience of just 20 people, and some of them are students. I know the universities are afraid of the UGC, and the UGC is accountable to the Education Bureau, so that they are directly accountable to the UGC. Can you do something at that particular juncture, that the universities must make sure that the national security courses that they offer are of good quality, and not just the quantities. Well, they may have a student population of more than 10,000, and the seminars are attended by just a few dozen. In your reply, there's a university accountability agreement signed with UGC universities. Some UGC-funded universities have other governance problems, and not just on the offering of national security education. So can you ask the UGC to require more specific and detailed report to be furnished by universities? Well, I agree with the member that the aim of national security education is not just to enable students understand the content of the law and also the relevant issues surrounding national security. The national security education should enable students to understand the Constitution, the basic law, the development of the country, and foster a spirit of law-abidingness and also the whole person development. The Education Bureau, through UGC, will ask the universities to be accountable in this aspect, they have to provide not just in quantitative terms. They should provide quality national security education to their students to ensure whole person development. Well, although they are accountable to the UGC, they are also accountable to the public. Although, apart from the accountability agreements between the UGC and the universities, the UGC will also require reports to be submitted on how to implement the relevant courses. And for all their courses, they will also assess the teaching effectiveness, and UGC will assess their achievement. We know that some of the university courses carry credits. Some courses form part of the graduation requirements. So we will also look at how they assess the teaching effectiveness of the courses, and we would advise the UGC on whether to take appropriate follow-up action or not. Mr. Kenneth Lau, President, the NSL has been implemented for 2 years. Universities and post-secondary institutions have gradually introduced national security courses. Many members have commented on this. The effectiveness varies from institution to institution. Some would offer courses on Chinese culture, and which is not really related to national security. And there's a report published by National Security Education Committee, and that is there should be a mandatory course requirement which covers national security laws in Hong Kong. Would you consider doing this, Secretary? As I've said, curriculum development comes within the autonomy of institutions, but universities, just as I've said, has a duty to implement the national and national security education. As for the format, and also as for how many credits or how many study hours should be involved, we do have a guidance for institutions. Although they do enjoy autonomy, they should provide a variety of activities and courses to offer that, to implement this requirement. You may think that Chinese culture is not related to national security, but national security education is a subject with a rich content, and it's just not just about the national security law. We want to foster a greater sense of national identity and affinity towards the Chinese culture. It's a question of raising awareness. It's not just about knowledge, but it's about the promotion of some spontaneous feeling in safeguarding, national security. So the knowledge, the awareness on culture and history of China is important. And later we are going to ask the institutions to review their approaches in fostering a greater sense of national education and national security education. Mr. Edmund Leung, at present, for post-secondary education, the administration will only provide a broad framework. So some institutions will do it in a very relaxed way. They may show a video or give a program on a related subject. Well, would you make it a rule that if they fail to meet this requirement, they won't get any funding? So let me stress again that in implementing the national security education by universities, we have a number of measures to ensure they do a good job. For example, in the triennium planning phase, we'll look at how they have been incorporating the development strategy, the strategic direction in the planning and in funding. We'll also look at the assessment results of the performance of the universities. And the UGC has set aside $30 million in promoting whole person education. And the resources were allocated to universities regarding their activities. And the universities will have to furnish relevant information on their courses to UGC for assessment. And UGC has stressed time and again that the university has an obligation to implement national security education in their institutions.
Question 4, Dr. Frank Ngan. President, there are views that as holding a university degree is the minimum threshold for various talent admission schemes in Hong Kong at present, students who come to Hong Kong for study generally choose not to enroll in vocational education programs at the non-degree level. And this is not conducive to attracting skilled talent to Hong Kong. In this connection, will the government inform this council? First, of the number of non-local students enrolling in vocational education programs offered by various higher education institutions in each of the past 3 years, with a breakdown by the type of skills involved in the programs. The measures put in place by the authorities to encourage non-local students to enroll in such programs in Hong Kong. Second, whether it will allow non-local students who have completed associate degree programs in vocational education in local institutions, these programs including the Vocational Training Council, corporate academies, and schools of professional and continuing education in various institutions, to apply to work in Hong Kong without securing a job, regardless of whether they have completed these programs on local campuses or branch campuses on the mainland. And third, of the measures in place to ensure the work quality and professional qualifications of non-local students who have completed these programs when they join the local labor market, including whether it will promote the joint exploration and deepening of the training system for skilled talent by local institutions offering vocational education and those in the mainland cities of the Greater Bay Area. Thank you, President. Secretary for Education. President, the core mission of education is cultivating values and nurturing people, nurturing talent who are able and virtuous for society. The HKSAR government has adopted the policy of supporting parallel development of the traditional academic and vocational education and training or VPAT pathways and promoting VPAT at different levels through fostering industry institution collaboration and diversified development under a multi-pronged approach. This is to provide diversified learning and employment opportunities for young people to develop and flourish. On grooming talent for Hong Kong's development, the chief executive set out a clear direction in his 2022 policy address, and relevant bureaus have been listening to the views of the relevant sectors and put forward solutions having regard to the situation of different sectors. In future, each bureau will start a new round of manpower projection to help the government devise appropriate strategies to address the overall manpower needs. Our reply to Dr. Frankie Ngan's question is as follows. First, VPAT covers programs up to the degree level. Many of them are specialized programs on vocational skills or professional knowledge. Different tertiary programs may include VPAT and generic learning elements. So the Education Bureau does not keep complete information on the number of students pursuing VPAT programs. Still, the Vocational Training Council, or VTC, the largest local VPAT provider, is committed to offering quality VPAT programs for both local and non-local students. According to the VTC, the numbers of non-local students of tertiary programs, that is, degree and higher diploma or HD programs from the 2020 to 21 and 2022 to 23 academic years are 79, 65, and 86 respectively. On HD programs, which are at the sub-degree level and they have a stronger applied and VPAT element, based on the information provided by the different institutions to our Bureau, the numbers of non-local students of full-time, locally accredited HD programs by institutions from the 2020-21 to 2022-23 academic years are set out 331 and 381. Now, the details set out by institution are set out in the annex. In the future, the EDB will continue to support and encourage institutions to recruit non-local students and attract talent for Hong Kong under the established mechanism, and will review the relevant policies as appropriate to address the need for the development of our talent and society. Second, the government has always been listening to the diverse views from different sectors on how Hong Kong should address the manpower needs with an open mind, and has conducted in-depth analyses to pursue the policy direction proposed by the Chief Executive in his 2022 policy address. We will continue to proactively discuss and study the matter with the relevant policy bureaus and departments, and plan holistically to address society's needs appropriately. Third, to assure the quality of different VPAT programs, the HKSL government has in place a safeguard mechanism and defined through the generic level descriptors, or GLD, clear and objective standards and levels in 4 domains: knowledge and intellectual skills, processes, autonomy and accountability, and communication, information technology, or ICT, and numeracy. As the Statutory Accreditation Authority and Qualifications Register Authority, the Hong Kong Council for Accreditation of Academic and Vocational Qualifications assures that QF-recognized programs meet the outcome standards of the corresponding QF level. The learning outcomes of VPAT programs recognized under the QF can all meet the corresponding objective standards in the GLD. HD graduates, for example, should meet the standards of QF Level 4, and they are: in knowledge and intellectual skills, demonstrate and work with a broad knowledge base, with some specialized knowledge and skills, and to evaluate information. In processes, perform skilled tasks, conduct routine data collection and analysis, as well as plan, select, and present information, methods, or resources. In autonomy and accountability, undertake self-directed and some supervisory activities, as well as work contributing to group performance. And in communication, ICT, and numeracy, organize and synthesize information to convey complex ideas, as well as using ICT and data to measure progress. We also specify, among other requirements, the learning outcomes, curriculum, and exit qualifications of HD programs through the common descriptors for associate degree and HD programs, as well as the requirement to undergo accreditation to ensure the quality of HD programs. This year, we concluded the review of sub-degree education and updated the common descriptors, which will come into effect in the 2024-25 academic year, spelling out clearly the requirements about HD education. The VTC has also been maintaining close liaison and cooperation with the government and industries to stay up to date on Hong Kong's manpower market and job market. This way, the VTC can develop and enhance its VPAT programs and ensure its programs can keep pace with the times and address the actual needs of society and the industries. With the support of the governments of the two places, the VTC and the Shenzhen Polytechnic signed a collaborative framework agreement in 2020 on further collaboration in areas including joint programs, workplace attachment and training, exchange opportunities, and research and development. In 2021, they signed an agreement on further collaboration in organizing joint programs and workplace attachment and training so as to jointly cultivate talent. There are 8 programs jointly organized by the two parties that have obtained the accreditation of the HKCAAVQ and QF recognition. The VTC will continue to expand its mainland network proactively in future. Thank you, President. Dr. Frank Ying An. President, across sectors, there's a serious labor crunch. Many argue that in many sectors, there's a dire shortage of skilled labor. For local human resources, they may not pursue a career in the technical trades. But for those without a university degree, non-local students, it's hard for them to enter the local labor market. So you have a serious gap here. Has the government examined Now, the secretary just told us they would talk to the different departments on addressing the labor crunch. But then specifically, for those with the technical qualifications, non-local students with a sub-degree qualifications, can we throw open the door just a little bit, let them enter the local market and help meet the labor crunch of different sectors? Secretary. President, for graduates, they enter different trades for various reasons. In programs that are provided, we hope that they can meet our manpower needs. The member's question has to do with non-local students with non-degree qualifications. And we will talk to different departments. We note the member's comment. And we will explore this matter with different bureaus and departments to see what we can do in the future to get non-local talent with technical qualifications. Mr. Chu Kwok-fan. Thank you, President. Yesterday, the government announced importation of labor with quotas. Now, we need skilled labor. We also need to bring in talent with potential. We need to give them training so that they can be put to use in Hong Kong. So what specific actions would there be to support the VTC and also self-financing institutions offering VPET such that we can recruit students in the rest of the GBA? Can we do something to meet the high living costs and tuition fees to lower the costs for them to pursue studies in Hong Kong? Secretary. And for our local education, we provide quality education for our next generation to meet society's needs. Mr. Chu's question is about attracting non-local students. As I said, there are joint initiatives on workplace attachment and training exchanges between schools in Hong Kong and those in the mainland, and there are other programs for students to engage in interactions. That way, mainland students will learn more about Hong Kong's programs and they can come here. Now, on using public funds to help non-local students who pursue associate degrees or technical programs, for non-local students, now they will continue to come here and pursue studies on a self-financed basis. Now, for future plans on whether we will help them meet their tuition and living costs, we have to bear in mind that local students also have such needs. So we have to strike a balance by looking at the actual circumstances in our consideration. Now, we will note Mr. Chu's comment. Thank you, President. Mr. Tang Fei. Thank you, President. Based on the current rules, the self-financing tertiary institutions have two sources, or rather they have two kinds of restrictions. There are 6 self-financing institutions. Now we have the VTC series of institutions. They can enroll non-mainland students, but there are different ratios for mainland, Taiwan, and Macau students. For the associate or sub-degree programs, the cap is at 10%. For places outside Taiwan, mainland, and Macau, they don't have the 10% cap. At the council question last year, this came up to. So I have a question. For the 10% cap, will we apply that to other category of students? So for students coming from mainland Taiwan, Macau, and for those from other places, we apply the same 10% cap. Mr. Tang, you have raised a question. Secretary. Mr. Tang's question has to do with the cap. There's a cap on students from the mainland, Macau, and Taiwan. The question is whether we will apply the same cap to non-local students from overseas. Now, that will not help with our diversified development. For overseas students, when you put them side by side with students from the mainland Taiwan and Macau, now there are different factors at play, geography, etc., and also cultural differences. Now, the students from the mainland and Macau and Taiwan, we're closer to them, so we have a smaller number of overseas students. The 10% cap is not very meaningful, and we may end up sending the wrong signal, creating the false impression that we do not welcome overseas students. So this is something that we don't think would be feasible. Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you, President. We have a shrinking student population. Secondary schools are under immense pressure. We have a labor crunch. We have a shortage of talent. At the secondary school level, we can have more VPAT to train out more technical talent. Schools are worried. With a shrinking student population, some schools have to be closed. If some students are transferred to vocational education, then the schools are also worried about the teachers that cannot cope. So what can the government do to ensure students take part in vocational education in secondary school level, and at the same time help schools cope with this problem where you have a shrinking population and there are not enough students? Your question is not directly related to the main question and main reply. Secretary for Education. The question is about VPAT at the secondary school level. We are aware that we need different kinds of talent. So for applied learning at the secondary school level, we have been promoting that. From 40 or so programs, we now have 60 or so courses to give students more choices. In the budget this year, there's a new initiative. As Mr. Leung was saying, so we're not taking students out of secondary students and put them in different programs. We are exposing secondary school students to opportunities so that they can obtain VPAT-related qualifications. So we have this dual-track program where you have VPAT at the senior secondary school level. So we're starting with a pilot initiative. We're working with the VTC. In the next academic year, we will have roughly 44 places. And there will be $880,000 earmarked for the program. If it works, we will continue to promote that. Dr. Johnny Ng. Thank you, President. We have a shortage of talent in Hong Kong. For non-local students who come to Hong Kong and they pursue studies here, they can help provide workers. Now, over the past few years, we had only 300 or so students each year. We believe that have to do with COVID. Now, coming back to the 10% cap on mainland students, on our talent list, there are professions covered. Can we relax the limit so that we can bring in more talent to promote our industry development? Secretary. This is about talent shortage. For industries with a talent shortage, we will talk to the relevant policy bureaus. And we will explore what we can do about the associate degree programs and the HVPAT to get these students to stay here to work. But this will take discussion between departments. On mainland students pursuing studies in Hong Kong, we note members' comments about the cap, and we will explore this matter to see if we can relax the rules.
Question 5, Mr. Yang Wing-kit. Thank you, President. There are views pointing out that Hong Kong should develop more tourism projects with aquatic features to, through diverse tourism, encourage members of the public to stay and spend in Hong Kong and attract more tourists to Hong Kong. In this connection, will the government inform this Council, 1, as the displays of giant yellow rubber ducks in Hong Kong waters in 2013 and this year have roused 2 rounds of craze for duck appreciation, whether the authorities will collaborate with local artists or art groups to produce aquatic art installations with themes on local stories such as Old Master Q, Mac, and Chocolate Rain, as well as Chinese stories for regular display in Hong Kong waters with a view to telling the stories of Hong Kong and China well? If so, of the details, if not the reasons for that. 2. Whether it will, by drawing reference from the mode of the mainland's Qinghai Lantern Hospital, organize aquatic lantern festivals during festivals such as the Lunar New Year, Spring Lantern Festival, and Mid-Autumn Festival, with innovative features such as dynamic lanterns complemented with smoke on water and lighting shows so as to attract tourists to Hong Kong. If so, of the details, if not the reasons for that. And 3, whether it will discuss with local shipping companies providing passenger services to convert some of the ferries into leisure boat restaurants so as to divert tour groups dining in the Kowloon City district and promote aquatic tourism in Hong Kong. If so, of the details, if not the reasons for that. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism. President, tourism industry is one of the key economic pillars of Hong Kong. It accounted for 4.5% of the gross domestic product and offered 260,000 job opportunities before the pandemic. Since the launch of the large-scale Hello Hong Kong global promotional campaign in February, the tourism has seen progressive and orderly recovery, and the number of visitor arrivals has been on the rise. There were around 10.14 million visitor arrivals in the first 5 months this year, and the total number of arrivals exceeded 2.82 million in May, which was around 55% of the pre-pandemic level. In addition to promotion work, we have also been striving to offer diversified tourism projects to provide tourists with different travel experience to bring them to Hong Kong. In respect of the question raised by Mr. Yang Wing-kit, our reply is as follows. 1. The government has all along been actively promoting the development of arts and culture in Hong Kong in collaboration with local artists and organizations to launch various arts projects for the enjoyment of and participation by the public and tourists. The Art at Harbour, a large-scale outdoor arts project organized by the Leisure and Cultural Services Department (LCSD) since 2022, is an example of how to bring brand new art experience to the public and tourists on both sides of the Victoria Harbour. This project is expected to be held again in 2024 in collaboration with overseas and local artists as well as artist groups to set up an art installation on the waters of Victoria Harbour. On comics, Create Hong Kong provides funding support to the Hong Kong Comics and Animation Federation (HKCAF) in 2012 to establish the Hong Kong Avenue of Comic Stars in Kowloon Park to showcase the sculptures of classic comic characters, including Old Master Q and so on, designed by more than 30 local comics artists. In 2021, the exhibition areas were refurbished and a comic wall created by local emerging comics artists was installed to promote Hong Kong comics to the public and tourists. In addition, Create Hong Kong provided funding support to HKCF to establish the NECOM Park at Harbour Fund from 2016 to 2021 in the Golden Bohemia Garden to showcase sculptures of local or regional animation and comics characters of different generations. Currently, Create Hong Kong is in discussion with Hong Kong CF on a new project to establish a new NECOM Park at the Wan Chai Promenade. Them with the Olympic Games parks next year, elements of different sports will be integrated into the animation and comic characters to promote Hong Kong animation comics while encouraging sports activities and telling good stories of Hong Kong. Another example is the Sai Kung Hoi Arts Festival 2022, an arts cultural, historical and green tourism project covering Yim Tin Sai, Sharp Island, Sai Chow and Hai Island. It was rolled out last year by the Tourism Commission and then through a variety of local artworks, the islands were vitalized and the flow of people improved. And TC is preparing for a new round of the Sai Kung Hoi Arts Festival at the end of this year. In addition, TC, in collaboration with the Hong Kong Design Centre and Hong Kong CF, through cross-sector collaboration, implemented the Design District Hong Kong between 2018 and 2021 in Wan Chai and Sam Shui Po to promote local tourism and showcase local cultural lives through various placemaking, artworks, and creative tourism events. A new phase of the Design District Hong Kong is expected to commence in the third quarter of 2023. In fact, collaborating with local artists and groups to promote tourism development through artistic creation is one of the strategies for Hong Kong's tourism development, and it is in line with the country's direction of shaping tourism of cultural activities and promoting culture through tourism. TC and the Hong Kong Tourism Board have been working hard to support local, international mega public art exhibitions to stage in Hong Kong by assisting organizers. The double docks, as mentioned in the question, is one of the examples. We will continue to publicize and promote globally various international arts exhibitions and events to be held in Hong Kong with a view to showcasing unique artistic charm of Hong Kong, where it meets West and bring new experience to the public and tourists. 2. Different cities make use of their local unique scenery to attract tourists and organize special activities to enhance the attractiveness of their attractions. The Qinghai Lantern Festival is a good example. The unique scenery of Hong Kong's Victoria Harbour, filled with the dazzling city lights, has presented vividly this appeal of the East. We organize large-scale events from time to time with the backdrop of Victoria Harbour, including art at harbour, fireworks displays, New Year countdown, a symphony of lights, and other events. The Harbour Chill Carnival is also a large-scale integrated performance event held against the backdrop of Victoria Harbour this summer. At the same time, LCSD has been actively promoting traditional Chinese culture through the organization of the Lunar New Year Lantern Carnival and the Mid-Autumn Lantern Carnival annually. The Mid-Autumn Lantern Carnival, to be held at the Hong Kong Cultural Centre Piazza Waterpool this year, will create myriads of lighting effects through the combination of interactive and technological elements for the enjoyment of the public and tourists. The Hong Kong TB will also organize festive-themed mega events, including the Hong Kong International Dragon Boat races and Chinese New Year celebrations to showcase Chinese cultural characteristics. 3. At present, there are aquatic tourism projects and leisure boats available in the market for tour groups and independent visitors to enjoy the scenery of Victoria Harbour. As for the gathering of tourists in To Kwa Wan earlier, the Travel Industry Authority TIA has already strengthened the management of mainland inbound tour groups and urged the trade to make arrangements for diverging tourists. For the past Labor Day Golden Week, TIA introduced special measures in response to the situation in Kowloon City and achieved remarkable results by improving the people flow problem caused by individual catering premises. In fact, in view of the situation in Kowloon City in the end of March, with the encouragement from TIA and the Travel Industry Council of Hong Kong, the trade voluntarily improved the meal arrangements of tour groups and arranged some to dine in the restaurant on a leisure boat roaming around Victoria Harbour, with a view to reducing the impact of tourism activities on the community in To Kwa Wan and Hong Kong. Tourists were happy with the arrangements. We understand that some leisure boat operators are ready to strengthen services and believe that other leisure boat operators will also consider joining according to market demand. Thank you. Mr. Yang Wing-kit. Well, Hong Kong is an international metropolis where the East meets West. And we have many tourism projects with a Western culture theme. But we should create more projects with a Chinese culture theme. The double yellow duck is a good example. And now, in the past, we have organized lantern festivals, but what about aquatic lantern festivals with Chinese culture as a theme? For example, aquatic lantern festival showcasing Su Shi's poems and so on, and they're doing that in Singapore, and with such activities it will help to enhance our attractiveness. Secretary. Well, different places have their own unique scenery, as I mentioned in the main reply. So we should take full advantage of the unique sceneries of Hong Kong for staging mega events. For instance, we have the double ducks in the Victoria Harbour. Of course, it's very much popular among citizens and tourists, and it's brought back childhood memory to many of us. So we'll be doing more such events, and then we'll fully leverage on the cultural characteristics of Hong Kong and also the deep-rooted Chinese culture, and we'll try to do a better job here. Thank you. Mr. Kenneth Fok. We know Victoria Harbour is the treasure of Hong Kong. I've always advocated that we should make the most of the beautiful scenery around the Victoria Harbour for using it as a base for water sports. Now, the energizing East Kowloon office and with other parties, I've shared my views. And then at the Kwun Tong Promenade, there was a pilot project. There was a month-long great GBA carnival. Is a carnival. It's not sports competition. It's sports carnival. So it promotes sports among the people and also brings GBA visitors there. Now there was positive response about this idea at the meeting. So do you have any plans or blueprints to make use of the Kwun Tong Promenade and launch a series of aquatic sports events? So we could achieve the objective of promoting sports and tourism together. Secretary. Now, we've been talking to different groups on how we could take forward the program. We have to consider various factors such as the local situation, the water quality, and what sort of sports activities are suitable for being staged at a particular location. Now, outside Kwun Tong Promenade, or the section near the old Kai-Tak runway, near the harbour front, there are many vessels moored there. So we have to consider the actual situation in planning activities, and we have to work with relevant departments in promoting such events. Now, on the part of the of my bureau, we are more than happy to promote events, both culture and sports events with the Hong Kong characteristic, because we want to bring more visitors to come to Hong Kong for these events. Ms. Connie Lam. Thank you, President. Now, in the main reply, another Sai Kung Hoi Arts Festival is to be staged this year. Are you going to consider more water features so people can enjoy the scenery around the Sai Kung Seas and also admire the rocks and special rock formations and so on? Secretary, for the Sai Kung Hoi Arts Festival, well, we first organized the Yim Chin Chai Arts Festival, taking advantage of the special features on the island for arts installations. Of course, we will work. We work with local artists and arts groups to create the arts. Now, for the Sai Kung Hoi Arts Festival, now the scope is much wider. As I mentioned in the main reply, the festival now covers Sharp Island, Khao Sai Chau, and High Island. So we hope that for overseas visitors and local residents, they will be able to come here and admire the artwork. Well, there may be transportation arrangement, say taking kaito to hop from one island to another. That would also bring about economic activities as a result of transportation demands. And when people go around the islands, of course, they won't just look at the arts installations. For example, Yim Chin Chai, there are tours to explain how salt is made, and then there are the special features of a church. A chapel there is also are also explained. So we bring people there not just for the arts installation. There are local sceneries on these islands, and these are also introduced to visitors. So I believe that that should be able to answer the member's question. Miss Judy Chen. President, we do have a really beautiful harbor, so we need to develop more tourism projects with water features. But then, without a clear policy to support such initiatives, the departments will become the obstacle in staging such projects. For example, in the Southern District in Aberdeen, there is the fisherman culture docent tour, and then the departments won't allow any selling of souvenirs on the boats, and and departments will not allow recreational fishing. So if everything is against the licenses of those vessels or fishermen's vessels, then how can we bring a good experience to visitors? So that's why the Bureau needs to talk to the relevant departments to relax the various regulations so that Hello Hong Kong could be brought to our waters. Secretary, the Tourism Commission is more than prepared to take up such tasks. In fact, in the past, the Tourism Commission has been doing much of such work. Now, when we promote tourism destinations, it's not actually for the Commission itself to do it. Now, you see different tourist destinations such as the Peak Tram or the ferry service between Central and Tsim Sha Tsui, and then at Yim Tin Chi Arts Festival or in the Chai Kong Hoi Arts Festival. There are, of course, arts installations, but then also there's collaboration with many different departments and groups so that we could stand out the special features of the local scenery. Now, when departments handle licenses, of course, they have to consider some considerations such as safety and so on. And so that's our role. We want to strike a balance between tourism demands and the licensing requirements. That's why the Tourism Commission has done so much work in the past, but you may not see that. And when events are staged, you won't be able to tell what work was done to make them possible. Now, for Tau Kwa Wan and Kowloon City, where there were problems about tour groups causing issues in the local community, while the Tourism Commission has also done much. We liaise with different government departments, we liaise with the travel agents and the tour operators to see how we can improve the arrangements. So I can tell members this, and you can rest assured that for tourism projects, we will certainly take on our duty to liaise with different governments to bring these projects to reality. Mr. Perry Yu. Thank you, President. Secretary, I always been promoting diversified tourism. So water tourism is important for Hong Kong because we have rich natural water resources and we have this world-renowned Victoria Harbour. So there is immense potential for promoting water tourism, but then we need government support. Even if we have all these advantages, there has to be policy support to promote such development. So my question is, do you have plans? Now, there is this program to improve pier. So on that basis, do you have plans to review all the ferry facilities and tourism support facilities so that there will be a concrete policy to promote the development of water-based tourism or harbor-based tourism? Secretary, as I said before, we are more than happy to consider all these suggestions on different tourism projects because we want to promote tourism and economic development of Hong Kong. Now, on ferry facilities or ferry construction, now, or pier facilities and pier construction. Now, the piers are there to bring people to beautiful islands so people can enjoy the natural scenery on these islands. So as we promote green tourism, and if we see a need to enhance transportation services or ferry services, most definitely we will take that up with the Development Bureau or other relevant departments. As for the overall consideration, now when the Development Bureau conducts study or makes plans, they will certainly take into account the overall needs for tourism promotion and the needs of residents and visitors. Thank you. Dr. Johnny Ng. Now, Hong Kong has nice natural scenery, and we have rich tourism resources. While visitors and local residents like to enjoy water sports during weekends, and so these sports are very popular. Sometimes they hire pleasure boats, or some even buy their own boats. But then berthing spaces are really expensive and in serious shortage. So do you have plans for making sure there are better support facilities for the promotion of water sports? Secretary. For pleasure crafts, well, they're not entirely a tourism facility, Because when we talk about tourism projects, we're talking about how we can bring visitors to Hong Kong and how local residents can better enjoy our scenery. Of course, if we want to promote tourism, there have to be transportation arrangements. That's why on piers we need certain facilities, and there is need to provide public transportation and so on. But now you mentioned the berthing spaces of pleasure crafts. Yes, we've learned from different departments or the relevant departments or members of the public that there is a shortage of berthing spaces in Hong Kong for pleasure boats. But as to whether we could increase berthing spaces, we'll have to consider a balanced decision. Thank you.
Last question seeking an oral reply, Mr. Martin LIAO. My apologies. President, to attract enterprises and investments more proactively and aggressively with a view to enhancing Hong Kong's competitiveness and speeding up industry development, the 2022 policy address proposed the establishment of the Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises, or OASIS. OASIS commenced full operation on the 23rd of December last year. In addition, to dovetail with the work of OASIS, the government has also set up dedicated teams for attracting businesses and talents in the mainland and overseas offices to proactively reach out to target enterprises. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, of the promotion strategies adopted by OASIS in the past 6 months since it came into operation, as well as the situation of its contacts with strategic enterprises, including the number of enterprises, the industries involved and the prime concerns of the enterprises about setting up their operations in Hong Kong. 2, of the details of the special facilitation measures already implemented by OASIS and being considered for adoption by the authorities, covering such aspects as land, financing, tax and investments, etc. And 3, whether it has formulated an evaluation mechanism to measure the effectiveness of the efforts to attract strategic enterprises, if so, of the details, if not, the reasons for that. Deputy Financial Secretary. President, the current term government attaches great importance to the work of attracting enterprises and investments and makes every effort to further advance the development of science and technology in Hong Kong. The Chief Executive announced in his policy address in October 2022 to establish the Office for Attracting Strategic Enterprises, or OASIS, led by the Financial Secretary, to attract high potential and representative strategic enterprises from around the globe, particularly those from industries of strategic importance, including life and health technology, AI and data science, financial technology or fintech, and advanced manufacturing and new energy technology. Since commencing full operation on 23rd of December last year, the OASIS has strived to draw up a list of target enterprises and provide steer to the dedicated teams for attracting businesses and talents in mainland and overseas to reach out to and negotiate with these enterprises. The OASIS has also formulated attractive special facilitation measures for the target enterprises, including premises for setting up their operation in Hong Kong, research and supporting facilities, financial subsidy and grants, recruiting and attracting talents, and other tailor-made proposals. Tailor-made specific proposals will be made by the OASIS to these enterprises. Now, my reply to Mr. Martin LIAO's question is as follows. 1. Over the years, Invest Hong Kong has been the key government department responsible for inward investment promotion. To speed up the development of the technology industry in Hong Kong and high-quality development, OASIS has immediately commenced work after its establishment to proactively meet with companies and organizations from industries of strategic importance. In less than 6 months, OASIS has met with more than 150 enterprises, many of which are leaders in their respective industries, as well as companies engaging in cutting-edge technologies. The OASIS and relevant bureaus are evaluating the business development proposals submitted by the strategic enterprises. Now, for the way forward, Oasis will continue to engage and discuss with strategic enterprises on the targets list. It is estimated that Oasis will meet with around 300 strategic enterprises by the end of this year. At the same time, Oasis has begun promotional work in mainland and overseas markets to strengthen the promotion of new policies in attracting enterprises and other advantages of Hong Kong. These include the River Loop and the GBA, the Northern Metropolis, the KYC Artificial Island Plan, and also latest developments in the area. The dedicated teams will continue to persuade high-quality companies to set up shops in Hong Kong through different methods and channels, such as organizing or participating in different events, internet platforms, and social media. Now, to further the work, in February this year, we have established the Advisory Committee on Attracting Strategic Enterprises. 2 meetings have been held. Its members comprise leaders from the business sector and community, and they have provided advice on the overall strategy of the work on attracting strategic enterprises. Members discussed the upcoming work plan and priorities in attracting strategic enterprises, and emphasized the need to leverage on the many opportunities of the mainland, especially the market size and other advantages of the GBA during investment promotion activities. Based on experience thus far, enterprises of different scale, industries, and business plans have different areas of concerns when deciding whether to set up their operations in Hong Kong. These concerns include issues related to land, financing, talent, and immigration facilitating measures. In terms of policy, companies in the life and health technology and AI and data science place emphasis on cross-border data flow. Fintech companies are more concerned with licensing policies and requirements. And advanced manufacturing and new energy technology are interested to learn more about government policies on new energy and cargo clearance, etc. As strategic enterprises would have various concerns on whether to set up operations in Hong Kong, we would formulate tailor-made plans in accordance with their needs. In general, the $30 billion co-investment fund set aside and established by the Financial Secretary would consider co-investing in the enterprises, taking into account the potential to drive industry developments in Hong Kong. In terms of land, Oasis at present mostly recommends strategic enterprises to consider the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park and the Cyberport when establishing their presence in Hong Kong. As more land will be available in the Northern Metropolis in the near future, more options would be available for the strategic enterprises. The Oasis also provides employees of target enterprises with one-stop facilitation services in areas such as visa application and education arrangements for their children, and so on. In recent months, Oasis, through the Immigration Department, has handled over 20 cases related to talent schemes of visa facilitation. To ensure smooth negotiation and to secure the best interest for Hong Kong, the discussion process and contents must remain confidential. Relevant details will not be disclosed. 3. According to the 2022 Policy Address, in respect of Hong Kong's overall efforts on attracting enterprises and investment, the government aims to attract at least 1,130 companies, including strategic enterprises and other companies, to set up or expand their operations in Hong Kong from 2023 to 2025. Oasis is working closely with Invest Hong Kong and other bureaus and departments to achieve these overall targets. Members. Now, in terms of attracting strategic enterprises, we have to place equal importance on number and quality. And I would say quality is more important than number. So we will be transparent in making public the list of strategic enterprises with where the Oasis has discussion with to attract more businesses to Hong Kong. Mr. Martin LIAO. President, in the main reply The Deputy Financial Secretary said the target is to attract at least 1,130 companies to Hong Kong between 2023 and 25. Now, I believe there will be some I&T enterprises setting up shops in the northern metropolis, including the River Loop. Now, in terms of collaboration with the Shenzhen municipal government, the counterpart said they would introduce 20 plus I&T companies in the Shenzhen part of the park area. So how can we avoid competition between the Hong Kong side and Shenzhen side in the park? Will the Hong Kong government collaborate with the Shenzhen government in introducing enterprises, and will that count towards the KPI set by the Hong Kong SAR government? Deputy Financial Secretary, thank you. We attach a lot of importance to the collaboration with the Shenzhen government. Now, I would like to report to the member here. We have established an I&T task force led by Professor Sun Dong on our side. Now, together with the counterparts in the Shenzhen municipal government, meetings would be held regularly on issues in concern. Now, there will be a lot of collaboration in the river park, in the River Loop area. Now, some board members of the managing authority are proposed by the Shenzhen municipal government. So in terms of mechanism, there is a lot of collaboration between the two places. Now, about the River Loop development, we are still at an early stage. Now, there are 3 buildings with phase 1 construction completed. Now we hope that there will be enterprises moving into the park starting late in 2024. And also we have started work to invite appropriate businesses to move into the park. Now it is still at an early stage. When there are progress made, we will report to the public in a transparent manner. Dr. Wendy Hong, President. Now, over the past 40 years, attracting businesses and enterprises is how mainland cities achieve improvements and breakthroughs. Now, there is importation of technologies and also transformation of research results. Now, in Hong Kong, we have always been attracting enterprises. However, we were not proactive enough. We didn't offer sufficient attractions in terms of land taxation and visa facilitation. So we don't have a favorable environment for attracting businesses to come. Now, with the establishment of the Oasis, this is an important breakthrough. Now, it has done a lot of work, but I think the Oasis lacks readily available tools. Say, for example, for investment, it has to approach the investment corporation under the HKMA. Now, for land, it has to ask for land from the Development Bureau and also the Cyberport. Now, for talents, it has to work with the Labor Welfare Bureau. Now, the Director General of the leader of the office is pitched at D6 grade. It is not senior enough. Now, how can we ensure that the Oasis can be given more play? Deputy Financial Secretary, thank you. Now, on Dr. Wendy Hong's observations, I have 2 observations as well. Now, you can't say we were not proactive enough. This is just that we didn't employ as many tools we have now. Now, since the establishment of the Oasis, in terms of capital and also land, we have been more proactive in attracting enterprises to come. That's true. In the past, when there was a land shortage, we couldn't do much. Now, with the River Loop development and also the Santin Techno Pole, we can use the availability of land as an attraction for enterprises. Now, the Oasis may not have the authority to provide these facilitation measures themselves. They have to work with other bureaus. Now, from the government's perspective, the financial secretary is in charge of these facilitation measures, so there would be regular reports to the FS. For lower level coordination, I myself would be responsible for taking forward the work. Now, there will be more data available down the road because Oasis has just been established for half a year. Towards the end of this year, there will be more data available to showcase the achievements of the Oasis. Mr. Chen Pui-leung, President, the government says the Oasis is reaching out to the strategic enterprises one by one and propose tailor-made plans to them. Now, we hope capital and jobs would be brought together with these enterprises to Hong Kong, and also new mindsets can diversify our industrial layout. Now, in terms of facilitation measures, in terms of land and tax, will the government create favorable conditions for enterprises to set up shops in Hong Kong, say, for example, nurturing talents in Hong Kong locally, and also set a minimum period for these enterprises to stay in Hong Kong? Secretary, Deputy Secretary, thank you. Now, allow me to give you an introduction by way of a background. Members and other stakeholders have asked whether there would be a minimum target set by the government in terms of number of jobs created and taxation benefits. Having considered these suggestions carefully, we don't think it is appropriate because we would focus on quality. Now, the number of jobs created may not be significant. However, they will bring along strategic benefits to our development. So we will propose tailor-made facilitation plans to these enterprises. Now, like Mr. Chen Pui-leung said, we would discuss with these enterprises on the duration of stay in Hong Kong. Now, we would impose certain conditions flexibly. However, we don't think it is appropriate to impose an across-the-board requirements for enterprises. It will be counterproductive. Now, when the Oasis has been up and running for a certain time, maybe we can consider applying some generic requirements. However, we think at this stage, tailor-made plans are more appropriate. Dr. Tan Yue-hen, thank you, President. Now, the future roles for Hong Kong. The future development blueprints for Hong Kong is a dual development model of financial services and I&T. And I&T will be our focus. Now, we will prioritize the establishment of I&T enterprises in the Northern Metropolis. Now, the Northern Metropolis Coordination Office has been set up under the Development Bureau. Now, there will be a lot of interplay between Oasis and the Northern Metropolis Coordination Office. So I look forward to seeing the synergy between the two. I hope more strategic enterprises can be attracted to the Northern Metropolis as soon as possible. So what is the plan? Thank you, President, and thank you, Dr. Tan Yue-hen, for your question. Now, the simple answer is yes. In terms of land, there are regular meetings between the Development Bureau and the ITIB on facilitating establishment of enterprises in Northern Metropolis. Now, the office you mentioned is a unit under the Development Bureau. So, a key purpose of the Northern Metropolis is to support the I&T developments in Hong Kong. Now, as the member may well know, we have the Riverloop Park, and altogether we have 300 hectares in terms of land for I&T developments. That is much bigger than the Hong Kong Science Technology Park scale. Now, with the leadership of the Financial Secretary, we will work closely with the stakeholders to deliver. Mr. Rockchen, thank you, President. According to stakeholders in the commerce and industry sector in the mainland, the government has been very proactive in attracting businesses from the mainland. However, the reaction from businesses in the West is very lukewarm. Now, I think, of course, it is because of geopolitical tension. So besides reaching out to enterprises in Western countries, should we also reach out to places where we neglected in the past? Deputy Financial Secretary, thank you, President. Now, in the past, if you look at the destinations of duty visits by principal officials, you can see that we put a lot of focus on the Middle East and also ASEAN countries. Now, the Middle Eastern countries may be more interested in investments in our financial services sector. Now, INT may be an area where they are less interested in. Same for Southeast Asian countries. They are more interested in our capital markets. They are interested in setting up regional headquarters in Hong Kong. Now, they are less interested in INT. On the other hand, mainland enterprises are very good at INT, so they are more interested in the area. Mr. Edmund Wong. Thank you, President. Now, in the main reply, a target is set that between year 2023 and 25, 1,130 companies will be attracted to Hong Kong. Now, I think we have to attract more mega-sized enterprises to Hong Kong so that these other smaller enterprises will have confidence to come to Hong Kong. So what plan does the Deputy Financial Secretary has to attract mega-sized enterprise to set up operations in Hong Kong to create a rippling effect? Thank you, President. I thank Mr. Edmund Wong for your questions. Now, we are interested in companies in all sizes. Now, let me tell you, we are in negotiation with some mega-sized companies as well. Now, when mega-sized enterprises are interested in setting up manufacturing line in Hong Kong, there will be a huge demand for land. So we have such negotiations. On other attractions, these companies are interested in our future policies in creating synergy between Hong Kong and the GBA markets. They are very interested in collaboration with the mainland.
Government Bill. First reading. Mandatory Reporting of Child Abuse Bill